never touch a capacitor's contacts. These things can hold a very large amount of charge and can give you the zap of your life if you touch them contacts. If you're gonna wash inside your generator, I would highly recommend pulling the generator off and protecting the stuff that shouldn't get wet. Then clean to your heart's consent. Should you wash a generator? To be honest, I'm kind of scared to give you a definite answer because I don't want to get in trouble. It is something that's generally not supposed to get wet, but it's also not supposed to get oily, in which this one is very. So we're taking a chance. I went ahead and soaked everything with WD-40. I wrapped up this bearing here with a plastic bag. I've already checked the bearing. It's nice and smooth and tight, but you can tell there's still grease in it because it doesn't just free glide for a long time when you spin it. I also got a Ziploc bag around these electrical components. Luckily, nothing was very oily here. I'll just give it a quick little wipe around the edge of the cover. Got her sealed up here. I'm not going to tell you that you should wash your generator, but I like to wash mine when they get dirty. Although this generator isn't mine, it's my uncle's. Sorry I didn't show the disassembly. I wasn't actually going to record this. Chances are you don't have this exact generator, so it's almost kind of pointless to show exactly what's going on. In this case, I just removed 4 bolts from this rear motor cover. Here they are. They go through the whole generator. They're like this. They hold the whole thing together. Once I got those out, I was able to start prying the cover, rocking it back and forth to get it to pop off of this bearing. See where it went right there. It's kind of like a little bit of a press fit in there. And yeah, once the cover came off, then the whole stator slid out. I guess I did have to remove these 2 mounting bolts that went through to the frame rail there. Then I had to make sure and support the engine so that it didn't just flex the crap out of those mounts and tip down. One thing to note with Briggs & Stratton motors, at least in my experience anyways, try not to spray directly on the gas lid. They got little wee vent holes here. Sometimes you can get some water in the gas tank. Obviously don't spray into the muffler or into the air cleaner. As long as you just not point it up in there, you're fine. I was going to spray this with WD and wash it, but I changed my mind after looking at it closely here. You can see here, here's some epoxy that's kind of coming off there. You can see it cracking a little bit right there. You can see this side, how this piece just kind of lifted away from the epoxy. That generator must have some miles on it. Must have been used up close to its limit a lot. She'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with her. I just don't want to get water on this anymore. And actually, I forgot I was going to put a bag over that thing. But I'm probably going to give it just a quick little spray, like right here, just to get some of this gunk off. But I'm going to try my hardest not to get it hardcore into here. We're ready to go. There, about as clean as she'll ever be. That'll make working on this old girl a lot nicer. The governor rod on these Briggs and other small engines usually have this weird spring that just goes around the rod and connects up on each end. I notice it's disconnected from the carburetor end. Wonder if that's possibly why the governor acted the way it did. Whoops, I think I ended up getting the air filter a little bit wet. Actually, not that bad. Put it right up beside this exhaust fan. She'll dry right out in no time. Okay, now to clean this thing out. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my Energized motor cleaner and give this just a quick blast and a quick wipe and see how it turns out. I'm going to take some compressed air and just blow out where the windings go through the magnet here, just to make sure there's no water deep in there. Here's my cleaner I've been talking about. Well, it's like 10 hours later and everything's looking pretty darn dry. I think we're ready for reassembly. Well, off camera I got this all nice and cleaned up. After applying this stuff a couple of times, it loosened it right up and was able to blow the rest off with the air compressor. There she goes. There we go. Just like that, she's on. Look, he's actually got some of this PB blaster. I've never used this stuff. You can't get it around here. Use that to lube up the threads so they don't rust, and I can take it off easy again in the future. That stuff smells really weird. It smells like candy. There. Our air filter's nice and dry. Check the oil real quick. Get everything all oil again. It's not over full, so we didn't get a bunch in the crankcase. Better engage the ventilation for this. Well, does it still run? Does it still put out power? Did I destroy it? Let's find out. She lives to tell the tale. You can see how the governor was lazy there and taking a long time to respond to load changes. It's always been like that. That's what I was wondering if hooking that spring back up that we found disconnected would fix. There's our governor rod in question. Here's where that governor rod comes up to. Now as you can see, that spring just comes up all the way up that rod. The end just loops around the end of the rod up here. You know, it's funny, I've always wondered what those springs actually did, but I've never questioned it. If I've ever had one apart, I always put it back on. But now I realize that spring is to hold this whole assembly nice and tight. Actually, I think usually they actually go through a hole on this piece right here that the rod goes into. But this one doesn't seem to have a hole there, so I just wrapped it around right here. And it actually made quite a bit of difference. Now it seems to find its RPM a lot faster. Alright, well after that clip, I decided to try lowering the revs a little bit because that occasional 129 and 130 volt was getting a little high. That's when I realized this adjustment nut here, its little part that clips into this bracket and holds it there, was actually popped out and above the bracket. So when I clipped that back in, now all of a sudden the revs were way too low. And then when I tried to bring the revs back up, it was just maxed out on this adjuster here. So then I had to come over here. This spring right here is what connects this adjustment mechanism to the governor assembly, as you can see back here. It just hooks up on a little tang right there. I went ahead and shortened that spring a little bit. I've had to do this with a couple of Briggs generators now. You can see this is what the spring looks like originally, kind of. It has a very long hook on it that the end just comes down just above the coils, and that makes it kind of a pain in the arse to get off of that little tang. But whatever, once you fight it off, you got your spring in the open here like this. Take a snips and cut just right at the peak. Cut this whole extra hook on the left side off. And then just give it a bend somewhere in the middle or right here carefully, because these springs are kind of delicate, they'll snap. And just make yourself a new hook like that that looks just like the other side. That's all you need. Don't start chopping out sections of the spring or you're going to be in a world of hurt. That'll start messing with the actual tension of the spring, and we don't want that. That'll make your governor act weird. Shorten that hook up, and that's all I've ever had to do. Then of course, once you get your spring reinstalled, you're going to have to back off this adjuster a lot. You can see how the paint's scraped right here. That's how far back I had to dial back the adjuster. Just be ready to shut her right back off if it's starting to over rev. Fully functional unit now. Now it does seem to be surging just a little bit without load, but it does even out after it runs there without load for a while. She probably needs a carb clean. But that's about all this video is going to get for now. If I take that carb apart and clean it, I'll record it. You know, I'm not going to tell you you should wash your pressure, or frick. Always drop it and lose washers and stuff. That's always a good thing to do. Oh look, there's a washer I lost earlier. Cool. Oh no! Whoops, I forgot all about my impact here. Shoot. She got good and wet. I guess I'll just have to let it dry out. Boy, old Uncle's shed here is actually not too bad for videos. Lighting works pretty well. It'd be even better if I got that old girl fired up. There we go, nothing but the finest here. Man, I don't think that thing's shone any light since the days that my Papa Stan used to use this shed, like over 25 years ago. Anyways, enough nerding out about the light. It's barely even doing anything. It's just crackling. No, we'll have to keep an eye on you. Okay, generator. Oh my goodness, why is it doing that? Is it gonna pop? Oh, that's sketch. I lost my screwdriver. It's kind of tough to see. Oh, of course, I got a smudge on my lens. Boy, that pisses me off every time. Okay, deep breaths. And if you can see here, that spring is coming all the way up. The camera's focusing on the wrong thing.